And I totally agree that, knowing how much you can afford. And I'm just wondering, as a brand owner from my end, let's say, okay, I want to go into Facebook ads and I approach you as an agency for you to help me run ads. What sort of factors do you use to evaluate and assess whether or not they are ready for Facebook ads? I think that is the key point that makes it like hard for us as marketers and for brand owners to determine if it's a right channel fit.
Yeah. I think one of the first things that there's a couple of numbers I want to know.
Yeah.
Number one is, do you know your LTV of your customer? Like, what's the lifetime value of your customer? Another number that I want to know is, how much does it cost for you to produce your product?
COGS, right?
Yes, COGS. So what that's going to give me is, how much can I afford to spend to acquire a customer? So for instance, if my lifetime value is $100 and it costs me $20 to make a thing, as long as I spend less than $80 to sell that thing, I've made money.
True.
So I need to know what that number is. Otherwise, it's like, well, did I get a positive ROAS? I don't know. Like, if my LTV is $100, but I sell my thing for 50, but I know that average person is going to buy 2-3 times. Maybe I have a ROAS of 0.6, but I'm doubling my money. Like, that could easily be true. Because, like, if I know I'm going to get a second or third sale off of that person, I don't need to profit on the first one. And then people will say, well, we're really cash strapped. We can't afford that. Well, my argument is, can you go a month or two? Because maybe the person that buys in the first week buys again 4 or 5 weeks later. Well, in your second month, you're starting to get free money, right? You're making sales that are coming in, right? That LTV is maturing. Now, obviously, every customer journey, every brand is different.
Yeah.
But I want to know that number. That gives us something we call PSM, profitable scaling margin. Like, so if I'm getting, say I have $80 is what I can afford, and I'm making sales for 40. Theoretically, I could double my spend, and if I made no more extra sales, I'd still break even. And if I'm not making any extra sales, but I'm getting a lot more traffic to my store, odds are I'm making sales because of email and search and direct organic. I'm probably making money someplace that Facebook's not taking credit for. So that's the first thing that I want to know, is those numbers. And then the second thing is, very importantly, something we call runway. What is your runway? And what I mean by that is, how much can you say you're like, I've got $5,000, and when it runs out, I'm done. Okay. You spend $100 a day. You have 50 days to make it. Okay, got it. Well, what if over that 50 days you sell something at a profit? Well, now that $5,000 might, say you sell $2,000 worth of product. Well, now that $5,000 isn't the end of your money, right? Because you made two of it back. So now it's like, well, okay, well, I can go a little bit longer, and I can go a little bit longer, right? So if it's $100 a day and I make 2,000, I can actually go to 70 days instead of 50, right? Because I now have 7,000. So what is that runway? And your goal is basically, before that runway runs out, can you get to a point where it gets bigger instead of getting smaller? If you can get more time, right? So if every day you're making $200 and you can afford to spend $100, and that happens on, say, day 35, where you only have 15 days left.
Yeah.
Well, now on day 36, you actually have 16 days left. Every new day, you're actually gaining a day on the calendar because you have more, you're making more money than you're losing, right?
Yeah.
Figure out that runway. And you have a very clear idea of how to make your decisions. Because, oh, this is a good idea. I'm going to try it out for a week. Can you afford to take a week-long risk? Maybe, maybe not. And when you start to figure that stuff out, how do you make your runway bigger? Make sales for more than you're spending. Maybe that means that Facebook isn't the right move right away. But if I spend money on Facebook and I know like I've got a month to turn this thing around, cool. I've got 45 days. Because you might think, well, after a month, I'm going to run out of money. But if you made any money, now that month might be a month and a half. And if 15 days later, it's like, oh, actually, I have 2 weeks later, I've got 3 weeks of runway left. Eventually, it's not going to be when do you run out of money, but when do you start spending more? And that's the problem everybody wants to have. So those are the two things that I care about the most. And honestly, I think very few business owners know almost any of that. Yeah. And I think that's why they fail.
It's common.
To be completely honest.
I've got an example where one client like has a lifetime value worth of $10,000, let's say. And they were telling me like, okay, because it's a service, technically there's no cost involved, but technically it's their time, but let's assume zero cost. And I will give you $3,000 per month budget to run. And so if you are the marketer, what would be your thoughts on that?
All right, give me these numbers one more time. Say it again.
So let's say I have a lifetime value of $10,000, and okay. I will give you, instead of, let's say I will give you $2,000 because I'm new to Facebook. I wanted to test the waters per month. So I want results, a 2-to-1 ROI at the first month. And besides the 2K, I will be also adding in 2K ads, 2K, like as an agency, I'll charge 2K extra. Would you say it's a good deal to take on?
I don't think so. And the reason I would say no is because I don't think that runway is long enough for me to really make something work. And my point is, I don't just have to pay for the ad spend. Yeah. Part of that COGS is now going up because like you have to pay for me. Right? So at that point and again, money is always relative. I get it. But $2,000, if $2,000 is going to make or break me.
Yeah.
And let's say that product costs $20. So that's 100 sales. That's a pretty short window where I've got to be right pretty early. Or, like, I'd rather have a 90-day timeline. If you can give me $3,000 over 90 days versus $2,000 over 30, I'll take that every single day. Because that's $1,000 a month. Where now maybe I make one sale every 2 days in that first week.
Yeah.
Maybe I make one sale a day the second week. By the end of the first month, I'm making 1 or 2 sales a day. My runway's getting shorter, right?
Yeah.
But maybe by the end of the second month, I'm making 3 sales a day and breaking even. By the end of that third month, maybe I'm making 3 or 4 sales a day and I'm starting to profit. When time is your enemy, it's really, really hard to take that on because ultimately you have to be right and you have to be right early. And the honest truth is, I'm willing to admit that I'm probably wrong on what ad is going to be the best. I'm probably wrong on how we're going to need to do things. And also your business is, even if you're successful, probably isn't set up to properly monetize Facebook style traffic. Maybe your business is great because every customer you've had so far is somebody that was looking specifically for you. It was inbound sales. And you're like, we close 90% of people that come knocking on our door. And as soon as you go knocking on doors, you close 5% of them. Like, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So your business might not be set up to legitimately handle what we call growth and acquisition efforts. So I'd rather take 3 months at lower money, knowing that gives me a better chance to still be in business with you afterwards. And that to me is far more important.
Right.
Because I'm ultimately playing the long game. Like, I want you to stick around. I'd rather make that investment. I'd rather take that hit and know that in the future we're going to be working together on a really healthy business. So that's kind of how I look at it. I think also, just as a complete side note, so human psychology. Yeah. If somebody's giving me $2,000 and that's going to be the reason that their dream fails or succeeds, I know that person's going to be emailing me every day. I know I'm going to have to talk to them and explain to them everything. And the honest truth is, those first weeks are going to be complete luck. Like maybe our ads hit the right people. Maybe they don't. Maybe that web page converts cold traffic. Maybe it doesn't. And if anything goes wrong, I now have to babysit this person whose livelihood depends on me getting lucky. And that's just a situation that I have taken before. That is very difficult to, it's very difficult when your interpersonal relationships with clients are basically you didn't get lucky and now they've got to reevaluate their dreams. Like that's tough.
Oh, yeah. I think it's very common for small sort of let's say just agencies dealing with clients that are not very well versed in these numbers, and they just hope that they're out of money, they only have $2,000 left, they wanted to get a customer worth lifetime value of 10K, and they needed the sale like within the month, like right now.
Yeah.
And they just ask, and some agencies just took it, like why not?
Yeah,
like,
somebody will say, yeah, we can do that, and then hopefully they deliver. Yeah, somebody will say yes. The thing is, if that person wins, great. If they don't win, that sucks. And the honest truth is, those first few wins is way more luck than it is strategy.
Right.
I don't want a couple wins. I want the situation where in 90 days, we can make 2 sales a month, 3 sales. Like in 90 days, we're setting this thing up that you are profitable and we can count on it.
Yeah.
Whether that is 1 sale of the 10,000 a month because we're getting enough people into our site that we're able to do better at emailing them or getting the lead flow together or getting our DMs together. Like there's more time. There's more repetition. There's more opportunity. I'll default to that every day of the week, even if it means less money, because 6 months from now, we're going to be best friends making money like together. I'll invest in that with my time and effort much more times. And the honest truth is, it might fail. But as soon as you get 1 or 2 wins there, you're golden.
Right. That's true. I think it's a good one for people to know as well that you need to be clear about your runway, how long you can sustain yourself, because Facebook might not be a necessity, but rather a luxury to afford. You will put that.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it.
Right, great. Because I think a lot of small businesses, they heard of Facebook, it's a brand new cool kid in the block, and they thought it was a necessity to get sales in. They were desperate. And we just sell them the dream. And they're like, why not take it? It's got 100 ROAS, 20 ROAS, based on that, And speaking of which, you've been a huge advocate over how ROAS is absurd. And you talked about PSM is better than ROAS. So to all readers who are, maybe to explain those that are very new towards the concept, like in terms of ROAS, all they heard is I put $10 in and I got the sale worth 1,000. So that means I got a huge ROAS. Yeah. Is that good? How is that? Like, let's use a Nissan example. How would you explain to people who are new?
Yeah, I will say this.
Yeah.
The concept of attribution, which I think is nonsense. It's basically saying, let's use real world examples.
Yeah.
If you go, let's use the car dealership, right? Now, not everybody's bought a car in their life, but let's just use that example. If you go to a car dealership to buy a car, did you make the purchase because of the salesperson?
Ooh.
Like when you walked into that Nissan dealership, was it the person who was lucky enough to shake your hand when you walked in? And they put you in the car for the test drive. Are they the reason you just spent, in this case for the Sentra, like a $25,000 car? Or was there a million other things that went into that choice? Like, oh, I saw the TV commercials and my friends had one and I did a little bit of research on myself. Like, no customer journey. I'm not saying no because I'm sure there's one, but whatever. Like, very, very small customer journeys are, I saw an ad and I bought the very first time.
Right.
And the reason that matters is to say, the reason we look at data is for the actionability of the insight. And what I mean by this is, cool, you got a 10x ROAS, right? Or 100x ROAS, whatever the number is. Great. What am I going to do with that information? Odds are I'm like, oh, I'm going to spend more money behind this ad.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you're going to give that salesperson that answered the door a pay raise because you walked in ready to buy. Like, that doesn't really make sense. So instead, well, it's not the ad, but I'm going to give it to the ad set. Is that ad set closing? Does that ad set have a frequency of 1? No. So it's retargeting people. Do you have multiple ad sets? Maybe those people are being retargeted from one ad set to another. Do you have search? Right. Do you have a website? Has anybody ever bought your product before? Well, the answer to all those questions is probably yes. Every one of those things devalues your ability to look at ROAS and make a good decision. I'll put it another way. If you've been to my site a couple of times and I got you in my retargeting, right?
Yeah.
You've been in my site, and we're retargeting, right? Now, maybe you've also searched for my business in the last day or two. Maybe you saw an ad on a Thursday. You saw an ad on a Monday, kind of remember it, maybe not. You saw it again on a Wednesday, kind of remember it, maybe not. And then on, like, you sign up for an email and you search for it on Friday, and Saturday morning an email blast goes out and you open it up and you click on it and you buy. Attribution would say email, search, and the Facebook ad all get credit. You made 3 sales. But we know that's objectively not true. You only sold one thing.
Yeah. So
now ROAS doesn't mean anything because who gets credit? So then it's like, well, this person gets a little bit of this credit and this person gets a little bit of that credit. Is that situation, does everybody always behave that way? No. So now you're trying to use a really low quality data point to make decisions around what ad am I going to spend more to in what audience? And at the end of the day, we know that those audiences don't matter at all anyway. So in that way, ROAS is a really bad number. What matters way more than that is PSM. And this will be the last thing I can really maybe talk about. But PSM, profitable scaling margin, is just lifetime value divided by the cost to acquire a sale and the cost of goods. How much did it cost to acquire a sale? How much money did you spend in marketing today? And how many sales did you make? That's your blended overall cost per acquisition of a sale today. And that's good to know, like, because that accounts for email and search and Facebook. And ultimately what that really means is, what's the best blend of investment between all of those platforms? Yeah. But I got to get going, so maybe we can cover one more thing, if you got it on the list, just so we don't get too long here.
It's okay, I can cut it out. It's all right.
No, that's okay. Like, just let's do one more. Let's do one more, and we'll call it a day.
So I'm wondering for the LTV as well, how could we guarantee the lifetime value within the PSM formula? Because you've mentioned that people have different buying behaviors, and if you have different products, and how would we be able to make sure the equation can be applied on all scenarios, especially if you want to promote different products, shifting different things,
That's a great question. The more products we promote, the harder it is. Which kind of begs the question, how many products do we need to promote? That $50,000, $70,000 a day thing I was talking about, the 200K to 2 million, I'm promoting one product.
Yeah.
I am not promoting a lot. I'm promoting the product that is most likely to get somebody to buy a second time. Because I know I'm going to get I know I'm going to get a positive LTV situation. Generally speaking, somebody that buys that product probably is going to buy once or twice more. Great. Every one of those additional transactions, I can try to improve the AOV of, and I can improve my product quality so maybe they come back and buy 3 or 4 times instead of 2 or 3. But I know every dollar I spend to go and make a sale is going to bring me back a profit over that customer journey. On average, against all my customers. And the easiest way of doing that is just saying, okay, of everybody that bought more than once, what's the product most people bought the first time? That's probably the product most likely to get somebody to buy a second time. That makes sense. So let me just sell that one. And then I don't have to figure out this math for everything. Because that's the only one I'm actually spending money to acquire the sale. And if you can figure that out, it's what we call a hero product. Nike had the Jordans. They advertised the Jordans everywhere. People bought a lot more than just Jordans from Nike. Right? McDonald's had the Big Mac. They sell a lot more things than just the Big Mac.
True.
Like Coca-Cola doesn't advertise Diet Coke nearly as much as just like, the regular red bottle. But like, okay, I know the brand, I'm going to go buy whatever. Like they're not advertising Coke Zero, caffeine free or whatever, like weird like version exists, right? Like they're just selling you Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So the point of it is, even Nissan, we were just selling the Sentra. A lot of people bought an Altima. The point is, what is the thing that you can make money on? Sell that. Because all you're really trying to do is make a profit. Now, maybe down the road, you get smart enough and have enough experience to realize, well, something else gets me a better profit. Maybe we switch to selling that thing. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's your best-selling product. Again, going back to the Jordans, they sold way less as overall sales of Jordan sneakers versus everything else Nike ever sold. Jordan sneakers, small percentage. But it's probably 80-90% of all the ads that they ran. So my point is, when people come to your store, they might not buy the thing you're advertising.
Yeah.
Figure out how to get somebody that's interested in what you sell into your store. That's your job. After that, it's the website's job to get them to be your salesperson.
Right.
So, yes, that math can get ridiculously complicated when you're selling 10, 15, 20 things. So don't.
Yeah, I was thinking of what happens to those big accounts that you're handling. Like,
yeah.
Wouldn't they have to figure out every single product, and that complicates the entire formula?
Absolutely. But even think about it like huge brands, like the department store, right?
Yeah.
When you see a commercial for a department store, they're selling what? 3, 4 things in that commercial? Like they're selling you, maybe it's fall. And so they're selling you like a bigger jacket or like a thing to clean up the leaves in your yard. They're not selling you 1,000 products. They're just getting you to go to the store. What is the thing when I get you interested about this, you're more likely to leave with money in my pocket rather than yours? In a way where I know you're probably going to come back and buy again.
So
that's what we should be promoting. Yeah.
Right.
Get your foot in the door in the way that is most likely to get that person to want to come back and pay you a second time.
Right.
Figure that
That
out.
makes sense.
And that runway we were talking about gets a lot longer really quick because, I'm about to run out, and you wake up and those people came back and they bought a second time. Now you didn't have to spend money to get that sale. So that runway gets bigger real fast.
Right.
And that's the trick. Like every 8-figure business I've scaled in the last like 5 or 6 years, which is, I think I'm on like my 5th one now. That's kind of the trick, is let's just sell the thing that's going to get somebody to want to buy and is most likely to get them to come back and buy a second time. That's the easiest way of getting them to give you money. At the end of the day, I don't care what I'm selling. If I give you $1 and I put it out there in the world, I want it to come home and bring some of its friends. And if it takes a couple of days for it to bring back some other friends with it, that's fine. And then that runway lets you know how long do you have until like you need that money back.
Right.
And then all the other things we talked about make Facebook easier to get to that place.
That makes sense. So in short, is figure out what products that is most likely to get a customer the foot in the door, use PSM to determine that, and use it as a benchmark to run your Facebook ads, because you can't guarantee anyone to buy any products. You will try your best to get it in, but what happens after should be other components that should come into play, not just 100% relying on Facebook.
Yeah, you got to run a business. And if you're going to run a business, you got to understand what happens after somebody walks in the door. And that is not the job of the Facebook ad. Build a better website, build a better business model, do better customer service, whatever it is. And you're going to be a lot better off in the end. Or you can try to hack Facebook left, right, and center, work 5, 6, 7 days a week, working 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, and you're probably going to be out of business in a few months.
Ooh, it's not a good use of time as well. Probably.
Yeah.
Could have done other things like chatting with you.
You could have enjoyed life, or you could have made your website better, or you could have made your product better. You could have been on the phone with your actual customer service calls, or taken a vacation, or slept. You could have done literally anything else with your time. So figure out a way. At the end of the day, Facebook is a really smart machine that amplifies a business. The best way to use it is to set it up so that it doesn't need you to succeed. And your job is to make sure that it gets people into your store that want to buy products more than once. That's the overall general, if I can summarize this last hour and 20 minutes into a phrase, that would be it. And the rest of it is just how do I get that done? Yep.
And I think it's a good pause as well. I think our readers will probably be warmed out by all the basic, just to get through the basics of how Facebook works. So this marks the part 1 where me and Charlie talked about how you should understand the basics of Facebook. So hope the newcomers and also business owners who are looking to get into Facebook have a good idea before they even decide to go into Facebook. So thank you so much, and see you next time.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you on the internet, man. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it.